إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وبعد. Dear respected brothers and sisters, today inshallah we're going to study one of the du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that he used to ask Allah to give him a supporting authority. A supporting authority. Every Muslim and especially every da'iyah, everyone who wants to preach or invite people to his religion or to succeed in this life, he always needs to have a supporting authority. And that's what Rasulullah had in his life, and that's what the believers are supposed to do as well. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقُلْ رَبِّ أَدْخِلْنِي مُدْخَلَ صِدْقٍ وَأَخْرِجْنِي مُخْرَجَ صِدْقٍ وَاجْعَلْ لِي مِن لَّدُنكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. This is the dua that we're looking for here, which is the second part of the ayah, actually the second half of this verse that we're having today. It's verse number 80 in Surah Al-Isra. So what is a supporting authority if I want to have it in my life as Rasulullah did? We have three opinions in this regard. Al-Imam al-Zamakhshari in his Tafsir al-Kashaf, when he approached this word from a linguistic perspective, he said the supporting authority that you're supposed to have as a believer in life is knowledge. قال هو علم تنصرني به على من خالفني. Sometimes you have to debate some people at some points. You know, some people outside of your religion or even in your religion, you will have to debate some people or argue with them. We said before in some other episodes that you're supposed to debate with people in the best manner ever and choose your best words and be kind and soft when you debate with them. You're not supposed to attack their person. You're not supposed to attack their gods or their religion at all. But you're supposed to refute the misconception and explain everything from your perspective as a believer. What you need to have to be able to debate other people and to defend your religion is to have knowledge. And that is the meaning of Sultan al-Nasira, supporting authority. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ. This is my way of Islam. I preach and invite people for the sake of Allah to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with insights. على بصيرة, with insights, with knowledge. أنا ومن اتبعني, me and those who follow me, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So number one, the first meaning is knowledge, the supporting authority that you need to have to succeed in life and in doing da'wah. Another point Al-Imam al-Zamakhshari mentioned in his Kashaf, Tafsir al-Kashaf, he also said that the word Sultan al-Nasira, supporting authority, it could be money and power. Because if you want to do da'wah, you want to have money and power. If you don't have money and power, you're not going to be able to succeed in your da'wah. You're not going to be able to produce, for example, some series like this series. You're not supposed to be, you're not going to be able to build mosques. You're not going to be able to sponsor some students of knowledge or to sponsor some scholars and du'as to do da'wah for the sake of Allah. You need to fundraise and you need to be strong financially. You need to be strong and have power and money. And that is the meaning of Sultanan Nasira, supporting authority. So وَاجْعَلْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, teaching us that if you have this knowledge and you have this money and wealth and you're able to fundraise and you're able to build masajid and build places to do da'wah for the sake of Allah, you're going to have victory eventually, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said فَإِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هم الغالبون ومن يتولى الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا. Whoever takes Allah, His Prophet, and the believing people and the believers as allies, as supporters, the party of Allah are going to be given victory eventually. May Allah make us amongst those. Allahumma ameen. The second opinion is, if you want to have supporting authority, Sultan al-Nasira, that means supporters in your community, people who love you and support you. You know, in this life, when you do da'wah, you will find people who love you unconditionally. No matter what, whatever you do, they will support you, give you the platform, and push you to move forward. And those people are like the angels who prostrated to Adam alayhi salam out of respect when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him. And you're still going to have some people who challenge you, who don't like you unconditionally as well. Just like the shaitan who refused to prostrate to Prophet Adam alayhi salam when Allah created him. So from day one, Adam alayhi salam had a lot of supporters, but he still had some people challenging him, like the shaitan, some creatures challenging him. You're gonna have the same thing in your life, but you need a lot of supporters. Those supporters are Sultan al-Nasira, supporting authority. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used this word Sultan al-Nasira with one of the Sahaba whose name is Attab ibn Asid. He was the former governor of Mecca, the former governor of Mecca. Rasulullah appointed him as a governor, as a leader of the people of Mecca, and then he told him, انطلق فقد استعملتك على أهل الله. He said, go ahead and execute your duties as a leader of the Muslims in Mecca. And he told him, look, I'm using you on the people of Allah. Those believers are the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us amongst those. So he said, go and execute your affairs. Your duties over them. And then, فَكَانَ عَتَّابِ بْنِ أَسِيدٍ شَدِيدًا عَلَى الْمُرِيبِ لَيِّنًا عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He was very soft with the believers who do what Allah is asking them to do. But with the murib, the hypocrites, and people who don't, for example, come to the masjid on time, he was harsh on them. He was actually very harsh. Even at some points, he said, if somebody would stay at home and not come to pray at the masjid in jama'ah, in congregation with other believers, I'm going to punish him. I'm even going to beat him up. He said that. He was so harsh on the hypocrites and people who don't come to pray at the masjid. That's not to say that people who don't come to the masjid are hypocrites. I'm not saying that. People have valid excuses sometimes. But his approach was, if you stay at home and you don't come to pray at the masjid for not a valid reason, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to torture you. That's his approach, radiallahu anhu. The Sahaba came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and complained to him about his approach. Because Rasulullah himself did not used to do this to the Sahaba. He never went and punished the Sahaba or tortured them because they never came to pray or because they were not able to come to pray at the masjid at some time. He never punished them, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, especially if they have an excuse. So the Sahaba came to the Prophet and told him, Ya Rasulullah, you used Attab ibn Asid as a governor, as a leader over us, but he's a very harsh man, and they even said he is A'rabiyan Jafiya. That's a word that they described him with. Arabiyan Jafiya means he's a rude Bedouin. He used to live in the desert. He's a very rude man. He's a harsh man. And he's using that with us, against us. His personality is so harsh. What did Rasulullah say? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Rasulullah viewed Attab ibn Asid, even though he was harsh on the believers, not on the believers, and the hypocrites amongst those people of Allah, as Rasulullah described them, he was harsh on them. Rasulullah said, Attab ibn Asid is my Sultan al-Nasira. He is a supporting authority that I'm using to implement Islam in Mecca at that time. He said, إِنِّي رَأَيْتُ فِي مَا يَرَى النَّائِمِ. He said, I have seen a dream. And I have seen Attab ibn Asid radiallahu anhu came فَأَمْسَكَ بِحِلَقِ الْجَنَّةِ. He held the doorknobs of the Jannah and he started shaking them so hard, trying to open the door of Jannah. Even Rasulullah's dream, Attab ibn Asid radiallahu anhu wanted to open the Jannah forcefully. Look at the personality of that man, radiallahu anhu. He would just like Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. If he would see people speaking at the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and raising their voices, he would beat them up. Radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Umar was like that. That was a personality. That's not like necessarily the personality of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu or Uthman ibn Affan. You're not supposed to be that harsh, but these are different personalities of people that they choose to implement the religion of Allah. Rasulullah said Attab ibn Asid came to Jannah and he was moving the doorknob so harsh because he wanted it to be open for him. And then it was opened for him. And then Rasulullah said, Allah Azza wa Jal has given Muslims and Islam victory over their enemies because of Attab ibn Asid, and he is my Sultan al-Nasira. وَجَعَلْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. He is my supporting authority. The third and the last meaning of Sultan al-Nasira, supporting authority, that you're supposed to ask Allah for, the third and last meaning is the power to implement laws, the enforced laws. It's very important in any community, in any company, to have laws, to have constitution, and to start to implement the laws and the constitution. Allah Azza wa Jal told us in Surah Al-Ma'idah that we as believers are supposed to follow the law of Allah and the law of the land if it doesn't contradict the law of Allah. Allah says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, awfu bil-uqud. O believers, follow the law, fulfill your contracts, honor your obligation and your promises. أوفوا بالعقود. So we're supposed to have enforced laws, and these are the Sultanan Nasira. Allah Azza wa Jal in Surah Al-Hadid, He referred to this when He talked about after sending prophets and messengers with the Quran and with other scriptures, the heavenly books. Allah said, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. We have sent our messengers to people with clear evidences. وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ. And we revealed with them the books, the scriptures, and the balance of justice. Why? لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. So that people administer justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth and sent prophets and messengers for people to administer and implement justice and fairness. And then He said immediately after, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ. And we sent down iron with its great might. So you have to have might and enforced laws in place, benefits for people, and means for Allah to prove who is willing to stand up for Him without seeing Him. ليعلم الله من ينصره ورسله بالغيب. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, this is the last hadith that I'm going to end this episode with, that we have to have laws in place to be implemented on everyone equally. قال رسول الله. Or it's actually a mawquf hadith. It's one of the sayings of Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan. He said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَزَعُ بِالسُّلْطَانِ مَا لَا يَزَعُ بِالْقُرْآنِ. Sometimes when you advise people and tell them what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about something, they wouldn't implement it. They wouldn't stop being rude to their spouses or unjust towards their children or other people until you tell them this is what the laws say. And they're going to follow the laws, and that is the Sultan al-Nasira, the supporting authority. And that's what Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan meant when he said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَزَعُ بِالسُّلْطَانِ مَا لَا يَزَعُ بِالْقُرْآنِ. There are some evil that will not be prevented by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People will not listen to reminders, but it will be stopped by the laws and the supporting authority in place that's implemented on everyone. And this is the call to action, to have enforced laws in place, fair laws on everyone implemented on yourself and others. أقول قولي هذا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون